If you understand this one thing as a manager, the rest of this messy world of leadership becomes 10 times easier. A divided team isn't a personality issue. We shouldn't just be blaming people. It's actually a huge leadership opportunity. And the sooner you step into that, the faster you can get your team back on track. If you clicked onto this video, you're probably already thinking, why doesn't this team feel like a team? Why does it feel silently divided? Maybe it's old hires versus new hires, remote versus in-office, silos, eye rolls, passive-aggressive messages, it's all there. You are in the right place if this is how you feel. In this video, I'm going to walk you through exactly how to spot the root causes of that division and rebuild that sense of unity without forcing this one big family fake vibe. But I'm also going to give you a framework that I use with clients all over the world to make real lasting change, even in teams that feel totally disconnected. Most managers miss this part entirely, and it is a game changer. So today we're talking about how to rebuild connection and trust in a team that is silently divided. And the truth is this, the best leaders are not waiting until everyone just works in perfect harmony. They are constantly trying to create that, and in the conditions that they have day to day, they're already making moves to create that harmony. You might already be trying things like team building exercises, more meetings, maybe even ignoring the tension and hoping it just sorts itself out. But if you don't also reset the team culture with intention, the divide deepens. It's slow and it's quiet, but it does get deep. And I get it. Most of us managers were never taught how to do this. We were just told, communicate more, have the hard conversations. But communication without clarity or courage or knowing exactly what to do and what to say changes nothing. But here is the good news. I have worked with thousands of managers, managed 5 teams in a FTSE 100, played key parts in scaling and selling companies, and I have seen over and over again that when a manager takes the lead on connection, the whole team really can shift. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my proven 3-part framework for realigning a team when it feels fractured. We're going to break it down into practical steps you can start using today. Oh, and in case we haven't met yet, hey, my name is Heather. I have trained over 5,000 managers now. I've helped startups scale, and I've led teams in huge corporates. This isn't fluff, this just is what actually works. So let's get into it. Step 1 is we first need to identify what that hidden divide actually is. So let's start with the thing that most managers miss completely because it doesn't show up on a dashboard or in a team meeting, which is the hidden divide. It's that weird tension you can't quite put your finger on. People don't say it directly, but you feel it. Like when one team member rolls their eyes every time the other one speaks up, or there's passive-aggressive comments, or when you mention a process and someone quietly mutters, well, they wouldn't know, would they? Now, a lot of leaders will just brush this off as a personality clash, but I am telling you, after training all of these managers across global companies, it's actually rarely about personality. It's usually fear, power dynamics, or just a confused purpose. But until you actually name it and figure out the real root cause, we cannot change it. So let me give you a quick example. I once worked with a team who had just merged in from another department. And on paper, it kind of looked fine. We had shared systems, shared KPIs, weekly syncs, but in practice, it was really toxic. Meetings were tense, collaboration was minimal. We were constantly just like batting ideas back and forth because nobody agreed with each other. And people kept using we and they like 2 rival football clubs that had been shoved together in the same locker room. And the big mistake that we made is leadership thought it was a communication issue. We thought we needed more meetings, we thought we needed more conversations, but when we actually listened, we uncovered 3 root causes. One group felt the other had been taking credit for their work. There was this unspoken belief that one team was more senior or more important than the other. And then next, that team merger had been rushed, so there was zero context or zero input from the people who were actually affected. Here's what we have to do. We really have to listen to our team's language, not what's just said in meetings, but what's whispered after. The subtle digs, the loaded jokes, maybe the gossip in the lunchroom, that they don't get it or we always have to fix their mistakes. They aren't throwaway comments. They are really your cultural fault lines that you need to be digging into and figuring out. A really important question I ask myself here is, who benefits from this divide? It sounds cynical, but sometimes there's someone keeping things separate because it protects their status or it gives them a feeling of control. If you sense that dynamic, don't just bulldoze in, but we can't ignore it either. We have to name it carefully, make sure we fully understand it, then ask questions and invite some openness. And the last thing to do to just really start to name this and understand it is trace it back. Where did this start? Was there a merger, a restructure, maybe like a badly handled switch in leadership? Because divides don't just come from nowhere. There's always a trigger. We usually have some sort of origin story. And until you understand that, you'll be solving the symptom and not the cause. A pro tip here is to just run some anonymous listening sessions. You could do like quick surveys or Q&As where things are anonymous. Not to just tick a box, but to surface emotion. Ask questions like, what's one thing you think the other part of the team misunderstands about your role? That one question alone can unlock pages of insight. Because the thing is, the teams don't need to be best friends. We don't need everyone to get along in perfect harmony. But if they don't feel seen, respected, or aligned by their teammates, they are never going to function as one. So just before you step in with solutions, which is the next two parts, I want you to do this first step first. What is really dividing us? Make sure we know the true root cause and figure that out. Now, once we've really understood this, it's time to move into step two, which is stop treating them like two teams. This is where, as a manager, we really have to take some accountability. This step is subtle, but it is so powerful over time. Here is something that I really wish new managers knew. The way you talk about the team becomes the way they behave. Sounds simple, right? But this is where so many divides deepen because leaders unintentionally reinforce them. You might hear yourself say things like, let's get feedback from the new guys, or we'll wait until headquarters has their say, wait until the seniors have their say, or ops want to do it one way, but creatives want the opposite. And I get it, it sounds innocent, casual even. None of those things I just said sound bad. But over time, those words, that language, it builds walls. They signal we are not one team. We are separate groups who just happen to sit on the same org chart. And when you treat them like separate teams, they really start to act like separate teams. They will withhold information. They compete for the credit for the work. They default to blame, not collaboration. So instead, as their manager, we really have to make a shift in our language. Say our team, not both teams. Say we, not they. Even if the team hasn't fully gelled yet, using collective language really sets the tone, and eventually that behavior will follow. Second, let's do something structural and restructure how they actually work. Mix up project groups. Don't just put friends together or teams together. Create cross-functional pods. Break up siloed Slack channels, and a really good one is to rotate who leads on team meetings. It makes sure that one group doesn't always dominate. You're not just trying to get them to like each other. You're really helping them experience each other's world and realities. Here's an example. I worked with a retail company that once had a pretty intense divide between store teams and head office. The stores thought HQ were out of touch. HQ thought the stores were always complaining. It was total deadlock. So we set up this initiative called A Day in Their Shoes. Office staff spent one day a quarter working on the shop floor, on tills, in changing rooms with customers, and likewise, store managers and the team spent a day shadowing teams at HQ, sitting in on planning meetings, learning how promos got built, talking to customers on the phone when things went wrong. And honestly, it changed everything, because now, instead of blaming each other for problems, they were solving them together. One store manager even said, I used to think head office didn't care, now I realize they just didn't know. Another time I've done this in my career is when I had a dev team and a customer success team that really didn't understand one another's work. The customer success teams would want new features and products to be built in that the devs would struggle to add into their workload. And then the devs would change something, maybe that didn't go so well, and the customer success team would have to deal with the fallout. And so we did the same thing. We got them to shadow each other once a quarter. And whenever either of them started new in that team, we got them to spend at least a day shadowing the team members in the opposite teams. And that's the whole point. You can't collaborate with someone you don't understand. So no, I'm not talking about cheesy team building days where you all play rounders in a park, although they are quite fun. I'm talking about real operational integration. Let them build something together. Give them a shared challenge that matters to the business and watch the us versus them mindset dissolve. Because unity isn't going to come from these slogans. It comes from them working side by side to solve something real. And by the way, I've written an entire book on the 16 rules of modern management, not the fluffy boring stuff, but the principles and practical rules that actually helped me grow. Just go to the link in your description to order your copy today. And then the final step, step 3, is call it out. clearly and kindly. This one's going to take guts, I'm not going to lie to you, because when there's tension in the team, managers feel that too. It is a tough one. We know there's a divide. We can feel the awkward silences in the meetings, the side chats after calls, the way people say fine when it's very obviously not fine. But most managers say nothing. They hope it'll pass, that it'll fix itself, that a few more meetings, a team lunch, or just time will smooth things over. But the blunt truth that we all have to know is if you don't name it, if you don't talk about it, if you don't clearly say it out loud to your team, it doesn't go away, it just gets worse. And your team notice your silence too. This is where being a manager gets tough, but where all the great growth can come from is when we commit to having these conversations. If we don't, our team interpret it one of two ways. Either they don't see what's happening, or they do see it, but they don't care. Neither of those builds trust and respect. Neither of those gets people pulling in the same direction. So what do we do instead? We say what we see, gently but directly. Maybe we need to have a conversation with an individual or a certain team, but it needs to be something like, I've noticed we're operating more like two groups than one team, and I don't think it's helping us at all, and I want to work with you all to change it. This isn't necessarily about shaming or pointing fingers. Unless one person needs to be singled out, then maybe have that conversation one-on-one. But in general, we want the whole team feeling it and hearing it. We have to open that door to a better way of working together and ask them questions that invite their insight. For example, what's been making collaboration harder recently? Or what do you think would help us come together? These questions really give your team the space to be honest without the fear of being blamed. And when you hold that space for them with this calm, clear energy, we can shift the tone from you're the problem to this is something we can fix together. And finally, I want us to frame it as a team challenge, not as an individual flaw. Say something like, this isn't about blame, it's about creating something better together, and we all have a role in that. You want your team to feel some ownership over the solution. That way they're going to be more inclined to really help drive it forward. I've coached so many managers through this exact moment, and every time I say the same thing, you don't need to be perfect. This is going to be messy, but you do need to be brave, because the moment you name the tension, you say it out loud, your team just breathes a little deeper because you've just said the thing they've all been thinking. And that right there is where you can start the healing. When your team's divided, it doesn't just slow the work down, it drains energy, it erodes trust, and it creates this culture of quiet resentment. But it's not inevitable, and you don't need everyone to like each other. You need them to respect each other, to rely on each other and move forward together. And that shift starts with you. Name the divide, model the mindset, and design the systems that make this teamwork non-negotiable. You are the culture shaper, not the culture victim. And by the way, I send weekly leadership tips to over 13,000 managers. If you want to get on the list, just go to the link in the description of this video.